Hello everybody, welcome to Setting the Scene, episode 20. I'm your host, David. On the back of the board build I did for Raven Guard World Eaters, I really liked it. It was a personal preference. I loved that the rock was used in such a way to create the relief of the land. And in previous board builds I've done that via kind of just scooping up the aggregate, the aquarium aggregate, or perhaps putting some small slate pieces and then putting the aggregate on top, and it kind of makes kind of dips and hollows in the terrain. But I wanted to take this next board build a little bit further. I'm going to deviate ever so slightly. So when you go into Warhammer World at Nottingham, you go through the big sort of glass conservatory type thing, the atrium rather, go through the double doors. If you turn right, there's a board there which is kind of, it's not a split level, but it's kind of half of it, or maybe 80% of it is kind of high, and then you've got it kind of goes down. There's like a pipeline coming out of it, and there's some stuff at the bottom, kind of like maybe a quarter of the board. I really like that, and you don't see that in 30k, 40k boards anywhere else. But I love the fact that you kind of play on the high ground and there's a little bit of the low ground. I know it's a display board and you can't play on it, but I do love that. And if you have a look at a lot of the board builds I do, they kind of have a bit of a split. So, you know, in the game between Emperor's Children or Army of Excess versus Talons, Matt and James, that had a line drawn directly down the diagonal of the board, city on one side, defense line, and the kind of the Badlands, that excavation site out the front. So I love that duality rather than a standard 6x4. If you go to a tournament or maybe if you game at home, it's generally set in one particular area, either in a city, you're in some wasteland, you're in an industrial area, whatever. But and you'll know this from my videos, I like to put things on an angle so they're not square on, because everybody plays square on and very rarely an angle. And I love the kind of duality of a board. You know, it's on the edge of a city going into some Badlands, or in the Badlands with a Promethean pipeline, or in an industrial area kind of on the edge. And I love that because it gives you a lot of variation, and you don't just get a wasteland board, a city board, a Promethean board, whatever. It kind of crosses the two, which I really love. Okay, next, I really wanted to build a board that has a change in height, and I didn't want to perhaps just build it right in the middle and then you kind of got to go up to go down, because that's a really weird kind of natural rock wall which looked really weird. But I also wanted it so that vehicles can easily maneuver across it. So I've kind of got this rocky plateau, which looks really terrible at the moment, 100%. And then it will kind of it'll gradually filter around into some lowlands. So what I've done is, and I'll show you some more photos of this later, I've got a bit of a hole here. And I want to build a large Promethean pipeline, or a tower rather, that's kind of about this high, and have a level come around it. So you've got this, I don't really know what it would be. Maybe it's a vent, a massive industrial vent with a platform, a service platform around it. But the rock is, you know, it's supposed to be a plateau, a rocky plateau that vehicles, you know, it's not difficult terrain or dangerous terrain, it's just terrain. And it's supposed to look rocky and really difficult to navigate and stuff. And then it will kind of bleed into the lower, flatter kind of surface where we'll have some buildings and some crates and stuff. So it's still very much industrial, but you know, again, if you play Command and Conquer, you know, you've got a little Tiberium spike, haven't you, that's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, that's, you know, it's boring down into the ground to extract the Tiberium. So that kind of thing, and then supporting it really closely is like I love like a little outpost with some crates and barrels and stuff, and some crates, love crates, for stuff to fight over. But a lot of the line of sight will literally be the rock, and the fact that this rock is lower than this rock, and you've got that natural line of sight blocking. So although on camera it will seem pretty flat, when you get down to the model's eye view, you will easily be able to hide a Spartan just there, and your las cannon squad that stood on this rock here will not be able to see it. So it's that natural lie of the land that I'm trying to get in mind, rather than having a massive building or a big defense line or just a wall of Promethean pipelines or silos, whatever. I really want to start introducing this natural lie of the land, which I think is really important. Now, a little insight to the future, lugging these rocks around and storing them, perhaps isn't as practical as it could be. It's a little bit different now because I'm filming from home and space is a bit tight. If I was in a studio like I was before or in a warehouse, it'd be a little bit different. But so at the moment it's a little bit impractical, but eventually I want to have purpose-built boards that do have some variation in, but it's all made out of foam, and these massively heavy rocks are a thing of the past, maybe. But there's a lot going on at the moment, and it's hard to work out what's happening. So I'm still running with the rocks because I do believe that they are a fantastic alternative to foam at the moment, because I don't have the resources to store 10s, 20 6x4s with different rock formations on to give you the variation, because the last thing I want to do is produce a battle report that has the same board 4, 5 or 6 times. Sometimes I recycle these boards for 2 games, but never filmed three games on the same board. And that's a lot to do with the logistics. A film on a Saturday and you've got a game right on the Sunday, it's hard to build a board that night and change it for the next morning. Anyway, so I really hope after watching this video, you will see that undulation in the land. A lot of these holes, the gaps between the rocks, it will be leveled off slightly because we're going to fill it with some slate, and then we're going to put aggregate on top. So you will get a lot of these rocks peeking through the aggregate, and then it will bleed into the black lower lands down there, which would be great. But you'll still have this high point here going into a dip behind the other rocks, and there will be a couple of crates and bits and bobs on here just to break it up a little bit. But the 2 armies that are coming tomorrow, Clinton and Paul, they're literally all troops. I think there's a Lightning and maybe a Legion Basilisk. The rest are troops, assault troops, and dreadnoughts. Leviathan, I think there's 4 or 5 Contemptors on the board tomorrow, which is really cool. Loads of Terminators and loads of TAC Marines, Assault Squads, and Veterans. So there is going to be a ton of infantry. And, if you're an infantry model, there's a little hollow here, as I said earlier. Even if you're a Leviathan Dreadnought and you're in this hollow, you are not seeing much more than the rim or the lip of this rock formation here. So, like I said, it may look flat, but it really, really isn't. So before I turn the camera on, I've spent quite a long time just kind of rearranging these rocks in a bit of a formation, really. So I'm really, really happy with where they are. It took me about 40 minutes just to kind of make sure they're all lined up. So the next thing to do is to build this, well, I won't call it a Tiberian spike, but I'll build this structure here. I'm not going to worry about the structures down here for now because I want to get the aggregate on, and then I'll build the lower part. But for me, the main focal point, and it's virtually in the middle. I think that the centre's here, but it's slightly off centre, which I kind of like. I'm going to build this first. So I'll put the camera on in a different position so you can see how I kind of build it. But it'll be super simple. 3 silos high, maybe. Or I might put 3 in like a Nurgle configuration with a platform so it's nice and solid. I might have to just spread these rocks out ever slightly and then just build the silo coming up at the middle and have a few platforms off it with maybe some barriers and some other bits and bobs. But yeah, I have a rough idea about what I want to achieve, but I'm not 100% as always. I'll get on with it. As you can see, I use duct tape to secure these on the bottom, mainly because I know I don't need stuff to go underneath. So like these supports, the smaller or the larger ones. So it just makes things so much easier to duct tape it, because if I'm perfectly honest, these little clips that you get are an absolute nightmare. So, and they break all the time. They leave in the bottom here, they leave all of the little pegs behind when they snap, and it's just an absolute pain. So that fits beautifully. I don't even need to attach the two, and it just stays really perfectly. Try and get it centralized on there, which is great. And then literally we're going to add a couple of these levels just to make it stand out a little bit. And I think that's a really, really cool, unique thing. Thing being the operative word. I think we might put some platforms off this though, which will use the supports. So we'll just see what they look like. I don't know if they're quite right. What we have to do is we're going to have to angle this if we can. We've got to move some of these rocks out of the way. Oh, actually, do you know what? I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it where it is. I'm going to change this rock around so this much bigger flat side, go the other way, is against it like that. That's much better. That'll allow me to bump that up to there. You know, you want your board to work. You want a bit of troops to go from here to here. So we might just add a little platform there. And again, I'm going to use duct tape, I think, because it's not going to come off. Should we have it like that? Yeah, let's do that. That's way better. That works really well. Really, too well, in fact. And again, I'm going to use duct tape here. Just so much more secure. And it does have a little bit of flex in there as well. So, you know, the train I build wasn't meant to be built the way it is. So it's nice to have a little bit of flex in there. All right, so you can just see on the bottom of there, I've just joined them all together at the bottom with duct tape. I've put a little flap on here, and you've got that flex in the piece, which is really helpful. And that now is a really beautiful platform, which kind of leads down into there. I do have the option of fitting, I know you can't see it on the camera, but I'm going to fit a support this side. Oh, if it will go in. Oh, struggling. There we go. And that will just help reinforce this piece here. And if I have a piece here as well, that will just help mirror that. And we'll fill this with aggregate as well, so you won't see it. But we've got a nice lead off now. I think if I had more of these flat sections, I might have gone this way as well. Trying to think if I can do it maybe. I'll have a quick look. All right, I've had a quick change of plan. I've got a load more pieces that I thought I had. So I'm going to make sure that all of the exits are the same. So I'm just going to quickly do that. I like uniformity in my boards, and I don't think you see it enough, if I'm honest with you, and that's not a criticism of anybody. It's just you have to. I think you know, if you look at who's building these structures, it's the Mechanicum building these structures, or the Imperial Fists are building walls, aren't they? And other Marine legions, and they like a bit of symmetry, you know. And to me, the board building is so much easier because of that fact, because it's actually really simple to duplicate, and for someone like me, that's just it's really great. So again, I'm just adding all of these with duct tape, and it almost looks like a level from COD, or you know, or I don't really play Fortnite, if I'm honest with you. But obviously, with scrolling through Facebook, you get videos come up of some sniper ace on Fortnite or something. I'm not familiar with the terminology. I don't follow it, but you know, there's always a central thing, isn't there? Or like a spawn point, or a central tower for sniping, or as a like I say, like a spawn point or something, you know. And if you play the Dawn of War series on PC, you know, there's there's those little markers which you have to get throughout the game, and you respawn from that point, or you capture. It's either I don't know the terminology. I haven't played it for so long, but it's a particular point to capture, isn't it? So look, I absolutely love that. And what that does now is that makes this whole weird rocky area so much more accessible, because it's like a central point for the troops to get to, isn't it? It looks like perhaps it's been dropped and all the platform has been unfurled out, almost like a big drop pod. I'm not suggesting that's what it is, but it now gives access to everything whilst providing a really good line of sight. I really like that. That's, for me, that is cool. I'm going to add some computer stations either side, maybe some rails here, perhaps, if I can get them underneath. Yeah, I might be able to. And then by the time I fill it with aggregate and rocks and stuff, you won't know. I really like that. Trying to get it centered. See if we can put these little... I was never really a fan of these, if I'm honest with you, but recently I've started using them, and I think they're really great. They definitely add something a bit different, and they look like they provide cover as well, which is good. If you can give the suggestion of cover in your board, then it saves, I wouldn't say arguments, but it's less ambiguous about how that terrain operates on the battlefield. And I'm going to do the ramps as well, so I think that will look really cool. Now I know what you're saying. You're saying, well, hang on, David, you like symmetry, don't you? So why aren't all of these the same? Well, I agree. I would prefer them to be same, but I do recognise that not everything is symmetrical in life, as much as I would love it to be. So I'm going against my natural will to go on eBay and purchase 50 barriers that look identical, because that would cost a pretty penny, I think. I think that looks really good. I am absolutely in love with that. And how quick was that to put together as well? So simple. And it looks cool. You're telling me that you don't want to have an objective on there and fight over it. That's, it's pretty special, I think. Special. Okay, I'm going to wind that one back. Maybe that was a bit too extreme, but I really love it. I'm even going to make this look like it's a proper, like a proper chimney. This has broken, actually. We'll get some super glue on that a little bit later on. All right, next part is I'm going to add the aggregate, and I think this is where the board will come alive now, and you'll be able to see the contrast between the black aggregate and the grey rock and the contours that it will create. First of all, I'm just going to fill all of the voids, and then I'm going to make a decision about how high to fill the voids up to, because remember, I still want to get this undulation in, and if you fill the aggregate too much, it will just knock it all away, and I don't want that. But to temper the contrast between the black and the grey, I've got a ton more slate this time. I've got a load more in the oven drying, so we'll have loads and loads today, and we'll really reinforce this, that maybe, if this thing's extracting whatever it's extracting out of the ground, a probe would have been sent, or a seismic charge would have been sent from orbit into the rock, exploded, cracked and fractured the plateau here, and then an excavation team, a mechanicum team, whatever, a drilling team have come in and fitted this silo, and it's venting stuff, or it's releasing pressure somewhere like a tectonic plate. I have no idea. You can make up whatever story you want to make up to justify why that's there, but I imagine that the seismic charge that was initially made to bore the hole for this drilling equipment, or the silo or whatever, has fractured the rock around it, and then prevailing storms have come in and blown all the black aggregate all over the place, and it's kind of filled in some of the cracks and whatever. And then just down in the foreground here, we're going to have a little command station. I love these riser pattern ruins. They are amazing. If you've got one you want to sell me, or two you want to sell me, or three, please contact the channel, david@the30kchannel.com. I would love to purchase it from you for a very fair price. I don't skimp on terrain, so I'll give you a good price. But I need a load more for a big project I've got. Don't ask me when. So I'm going to add aggregate, and then we're going to make this bit of a low-lying kind of ground. And then we should be good and finished, ready to go. When doing this, I have to bear in mind vehicles are going to want to come along here. So although I want natural cover here, like here, for example, we probably can't see it that well, but if you're a vehicle that's here or a land speed or something, you've got a Spartan there, this rise here will give that Spartan cover. It's the 25%, isn't it? If it's obscured, you'll get cover. But when the table's flat, it looks like there is no cover. But it's not until you actually get here on the channel that you can see the undulation in the land, like I talked about earlier, and the cover that it does provide. So although it does look flat, it really is, hard cover. I know hard cover's not a thing in 30k, but it's a solid rock, just like it would be a solid building or a defence line. It's absolutely solid and will obscure a Rhino or a Sakaran or a Spartan. I'm really loving this board. I can't tell you how excited I am about it. I am just absolutely loving this board. I think it's going to be so cool. Right, that last bucket was 4 bags of this aquarium aggregate. I've used tons on here. For those of you who haven't watched a video of me building a board before, or board the build, it's not that expensive. I think it's about £20 a bag. But I know what you're thinking, well, that's a lot of money. If I buy 5 bags, that's £100. I can get a second-hand Realm Without a board for that. Or I can buy a load of Games Workshop Forge World terrain, or Games Workshop terrain rather. Yeah, you absolutely can. I totally agree with you. But the beauty of this, and I talk about it all the time, is that it can be reused again and again and again. But of course, you've got to have the facility to build this. You need a board with an edge, and you need ideally somewhere permanent. And I know that's not always possible for everyone, and I totally get that. But I promise you, the boards that you can build are totally different to anything you've ever played on. And if you can't do it at home for whatever reason, send me an email, photos of your army, link to your Instagram page, whatever. And if your army is as good as previous armies we've had on the channel, then get over to Huntingdon and get a game, and I'll build you a board. Right, I'm just finishing up here. I really love the way it's gone on, if I'm honest with you. It's really good. I just want to fill this void out a little bit more. Yeah, that's cool. And what I want to do now is I want to scoop a little bit over here to create like a little bay here for this building. So this is now, for example, if we've got troops here or vehicles, we've got a little bit of cover. So it's not just completely open, which would be disastrous. We don't want that. So I like the idea that all this stuff has kind of come down, started to engulf this little command building here, or workman's building, whatever you want to call it, like a little substation to the pipeline, or the pipe spike, or the Promethean spike, whatever you want to call it. I don't have a particular name for it. I've got a big gap here what I need to fill with aggregate, because eventually you will see that on camera, which we don't want. There we go. Look at that. Done, done, done. I can spend ages just pushing all of this aggregate and sand around, but, well, it's not sand, it's aggregate. But it does make a difference. Okay. Oh, I'm out of shot. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this slate that's the same colour as the rocks, and I'm just going to reinforce some of these edges here, just to now break up all of that black aggregate we've got. And this sort of suggests that, you know, it's fractured, then there's all been little splinters of rock between each kind of fracture between the plateau, and it's just created these small fractures in the rock. Tripping over a bucket over there. Yeah, I mean, I said this before in previous board builds, you know, the rocks and the terrain, everything is really great, but the star of the show, I think, is this final addition of rock on top. That sounds a wrestling adult movie crossover there. Rock on top. Anyway, it's a family show, ladies and gentlemen. It's a family show. Yeah, I don't want to go crazy, but I think that's enough. I've got a load more of this. I managed to sieve a load more today and separate it out, but I think that's pretty good. It's going to recover some of it. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Great, we're getting there. I am going to draw my attention to the little command station here and some crates and barrels and stuff scattered around. And then that is the board finished, so it's just final touches. Here we are. I really wanted to make some very special attention. I really wanted to pay some very special attention to this piece here. So I've got a load of defence lines. I was going to leave it how it is right now, but I want it to be quite special. So I'm going to clear a lot of this away. It would have been easier to do this when it was obviously free of it, but I didn't know I was going to, I didn't really think about it. So, you know, if you haven't got this old Forge World stuff, you can use an Aegis defence line and that would work just as well. And if I'm honest, I've got an Aegis defence line painted the same colour as this, but I do love this old stuff. It just has a chunkier, more serious feel about it, if that kind of makes sense, which I really like. I'm going to contrast that with the grey barrels. And those barrels just add a little extra something. And we'll put our little friend in here. I can't remember the name we gave him in the end. Maybe it was Walter. I'm not quite sure. Bert even. Who knows? If you know, leave a comment below, but I cannot remember. And then I have a bit of a penchant for these crane pieces. Again, I'm going to put it on an angle. I like that. And then I've got some of these containers. It's broken. It just needs a bit of super glue, but I kind of like it because if you wanted to, you can kind of half bury it like that. I think that's a bit much, to be fair. I might pop it somewhere over there. We'll come back to that. I've got another grey one here, but I think we're done with this bit here. Yeah, I really like that. It's just such an amazing fortified position. Those bunker walls are, defence line walls are so nice. Nearly finished. The next thing to do is I've got a load of barrels, crates, pallets, loads of stuff. And I am going to just kind of populate some of these areas a little bit, just to make it a little bit more interesting. Nothing too crazy. Contrast the red with the green works quite nicely. So we've got some red barrels, which we'll put over here. Bury them into the sand a little bit. the aggregate rather. Let's not forget the trusty toolbox, which Games Workshop made. We'll perhaps put it on the top here, like the crane's getting fixed, perhaps. I'm just picking out these old barrels that Forge World made years ago. They're just simple. There's not too much detail on them. They're quite simple, and I really like that. And all I'm doing now is I'm just tucking some of this into the terrain, because as the camera pans round, it's a little bit of colour in what is quite a bland battlefield. But you know, it's bland for a reason, because we want the models to stand out, because the models are the star of the show. So that's why there's not too much detail in the boards. You know, a lot of you might prefer super detailed boards, but I think a lot of the Games Workshop boards, the terrain rather, has just got too much detail, and they do look cool, no doubt, and they go together really well, and they're such an amazing kit. They just don't quite work for the channel, and particularly for 30k, I think, as well, because 30k is a little bit, I think it's a little grittier, isn't it? I think we can all agree on that. That's not to take anything away from 40k. I think 40k has got some unbelievable models, and if you look at some of the Necrons and some of the new Primaris Marines and various other bits and bobs coming out, I mean, they are stunning. You know, there's no denying it. Whatever your position is on the rule set, although apparently it's a lot better now, you cannot deny the models are so great. So tempted to do Necrons or Eldar. I'd love to do a Wraith Lord force, you know, just, you know, not a competitive, I'm sure. Well, I have no idea whether it's competitive or not, but I'd love to do that, just to paint some Eldar. That would be pretty cool. And those new Necrons are just, wow. All right. Final fluff of the board. It's done. I really love this board for so many reasons. Natural cover, natural line of sight blocking terrain, a big central point that's accessible by everybody, and doesn't make the crossing over the rocks look so daunting, because you've got this kind of central point, and then you've kind of got the two buildings linked together, one extracting or venting pressure or promethium or gas or whatever from the land, and then controlled by a little workstation full of servitors or, you know, forced labour camp miners or whatever story you want to make up. But I really love this one. I think it's going to be really great watching the two forces, Blood Angels versus World Eaters, fight over this battlefield. I sincerely hope you've enjoyed watching this video. I have really enjoyed building this. I think there will be more of this style to come, because I'm really enjoying building these boards at the moment. And I really hope that you try and duplicate these at home as well, because they are lots of fun. One thing before I go, if you would like to appear on the channel for either an army showcase where we talk about your army, your hobby and your personality for 3 or 4 hours, bang it all together in a video, it's about an hour long, then please email me, david@the30kchannel.com. I would love to hear from you. Your models do need to be very high quality because of the previous participants that have gone before, so we need a reasonable level of competence in your painting, but don't be deterred, get an email off to me. But if you would like to feature in a battle report and come over to Huntingdon, again, message me on social media, message me on Facebook, Instagram, david@the30kchannel.com, and we will see about getting you a game. I am booked up now till the end of November. So I've got dates December, January, February onwards. So please get in touch. Thank you for watching.